Hey YouTube, this is Jason with ExtraCartParts.com. Now I typically don't post anything about ATVs. This happens to be a Honda FL250 Odyssey. Again, I typically don't really market my services to this market, but I am working on an FL250 for a friend of mine. I actually have two of them. And searching YouTube, I could not find a quick video on replacing the engine mounts. So I'm going to show you the back engine mount that is missing. This is the new one. It's going to go back here. Now this video is not going to be the whole installation and removal process. It's going to be just some quick tips on what I found over the course of this project that might be useful to you. I will also link in the description field the sources where I bought all of the parts. I found a good ATV guy on eBay, so I'll give him a shout out in the description. This is the old one. Big old hole in the middle, rusted out. That was there. So again, this is just a quick, helpful video. It's not a full walkthrough on how to do it. But here are some of the parts, and I'll show you the tools that I needed. I'm using 3/8 drive tools. A long extension bar, a medium extension bar, and a short extension bar is what I used. 10mm socket. You want to use a 6-point and also a 14mm socket. A 6-point. I used a 14mm combination wrench, and then I also had this cool pneumatic angled driver or ratchet. That made things a lot easier. The reason I used the long extensions was to clear the seat and to basically get my tools above the seat so it was a straight shot down to the mounts. So it just made things a lot easier. I used as a ratchet to hold the weight off of the engine. So I pulled it up. I was able to move it about 2.5 inches. And it just made it easy to take the weight off, and I could easily move it around to position everything. Now, I really don't know what to call these. They're some sort of an isolator. They have a ring, O-ring on them on the bottom. These were on the two front mounts underneath the frame. So this went underneath the frame. The rubber's bottomed out on the frame. It utilized 14mm hex nut on the, that's the nut size, not the thread size. That appears to maybe be a 10 or a 12mm thread. I didn't measure it. And it had a washer. So again, this assembly, nut, washer, large dampener, and this is the way it went up into the frame. So when in doubt, always take pictures of what you're working on. So nipple side up into the frame. The shoulder bolt, this is the one from the rear. Don't mix them up. I did not check to see if they were different lengths, but the shoulder bolt is going to go through the whole assembly. So what you're going to have when you install it, make sure the flat side of the flange is facing down. So the flat, this part here is facing down. That will rest against the frame. You'll have this part sticking up. You'll have this going through the engine mount or the bracket, through the new engine support. Again, this is for the Odyssey FL250. Then you're going to have this cup. And bear with me for a second. The washer and the nut will hold everything together. I normally have a different camera that I use for this, but this is just a real quick impromptu video. So that'll be the assembly here. And when it's sitting in the frame, it'll look like that. So again, the tools I found that were useful: the extensions to clear the seats, the strap to take the weight off of the engine. As you can see, I have the exhaust pipe off. So that made it a lot more easy to move stuff around. What you may want to do, since these are all old vehicles, I heated up all of the bolts with a torch. I let it sit to kind of break them loose. Then I manually used a small braking bar. You don't need a big one because you'll rip the head off. Don't ask me how I know that. So a small braking bar with a long extension. Again, you want a 6-point socket for the 10 mil bolts, which are, it's actually a 6 mil thread, but it has a 10 mil head. These secure the rubber engine mounts to the chassis. Then you have the long shoulder bolt that goes through the whole assembly. So if you found this video interesting, hit like and subscribe. Again, I typically don't cater to the ATV market. Again, I'm just working on this Odyssey for a friend of mine. And I was sitting there, it's like, oh, what's the easiest way to do this? I went on YouTube, couldn't find a video. So I thought, you know what, I'll crank one out real quick, post it on YouTube. Maybe you'll find this interesting or helpful. So again, tools. 14mm socket, 2 of them. 1 combo wrench. A couple of long 3/8 extension bars. A small breaker bar. 10 mil socket. So on the 10 mil socket, on these bolts that have 6mm threads, they're rivet nuts into the frame. On the engine mount assembly itself, has the 14mm bolts, the shoulder bolts. Those had the nut on the bottom. So that's where the 2 sockets came in handy, because you'll need to hold one side and then break it loose with the other. Then I used the Ratchet air gun just to zip it out a little quicker. And again, long extension bars to clear everything on the frame. So look in the description for the links to where I bought the rubber mounts. The gentleman on eBay was very helpful for this project. I was able to get the mounts, new throttle cables. I'm doing 2 of these things. And a bunch of miscellaneous parts all from one source. So that was good. All right, thanks for watching.